Joining me now is Dr. James Thorpe. We have some chilling video footage that I've been following now for a few weeks. We've delayed discussing the story because I wanted to get all the facts first. We try to do that here, folks. We're not interested in being first. We're interested in being factual. So there are a lot of stories that hit our radar, and we wait until we can get more information so that we are not a part of the problem. We want to be a part of the solution, nor do we want to lose our credibility by getting out over our skis. Now we have done the information that's been brought to us by Dr. Thorpe and others. We've done our homework. We want to bring to you some very disturbing video footage and a story that needs to have national attention. I pray they find this Guthrie lady that's missing. I guess her first name is Nancy. I pray they find her. But here we are now on day 9 covering her story. And there are many, many stories in America that never get 9 seconds worth of coverage, 9 minutes worth of coverage, much less 9 days. Again, I'm not saying they shouldn't talk about it, and I sure hope they find the woman alive and in good care, good health. But there are so many important stories that are not being covered, and I think this is one of them. Joining me now is Dr. James Thorpe. The family's had their 7-year-old daughter that suffers from cystic fibrosis ripped from their home. You'll see the video footage. Dr. Thorpe, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for bringing this information to us. I knew about it. I asked you about it. You started collecting information. We even have video footage where I think today you are at something related to this story. Correct, Doc?
Absolutely correct, Brandon, and thanks for having me on again.
So tell us the backstory before I play the first video.
Well, the backstory, full disclosure, I'm not a physician of the family. And there is a gag order, not on me or you or anybody else, but on everybody involved with the case. I attended a prayer vigil, with many, many other fellow citizens here of the Pensacola area.
So this happened in your backyard?
Yes. Yes. Shockingly. Can you imagine the panhandle of Florida, one of the most conservative, more veterans than anywhere else in the world that I'm aware of. And it happens literally in my backyard. It takes me 25 minutes to drive to the courthouse in Milton. And that's where the prayer vigil and rally was performed. And I was honored to be part of that and spoke at it and was really, really appreciated that huge outcome with signs. And
now, for those who don't know, this involves a mother losing her 7-year-old daughter who has cystic fibrosis to CPS, despite the reports I'm reading and the testimonies I'm hearing. The girl was in good shape and thriving, correct?
That's, again, I haven't examined her, but you be the judge, the audience be the judge. You'll show the footage when she was taken away, ripped away from her family in March of 2024. It's been almost 2 years. This is unconscionable.
And the child is still not with her family?
No. There was a court hearing this morning, and that's why we were there at 8 a.m. And we had a rally and the prayer vigil. Judge Duncan was presiding. We have no idea what's gone on. We hope and we pray that it's a positive outcome. Listen, this was, I hope that the physicians and care providers involved get their licenses removed. And, where is Governor DeSantis?
Well, that was going to be my next question. That was going to be my next question. Where is the Surgeon General Ladapo, and where is the governor of Florida, who I think has presidential elections, if not running for U.S. Senate or something down the line? I can't imagine being such a young man he's done with his political career. This would be a perfect opportunity for him to show the patriots and the parents and the constitutionalists and the Christians He has strong stance on these biblical parental constitutional issues.
Absolutely. And at the heart of the matter, as I understand it, what happened was this young girl, age 5 at the time, Kinley, is the daughter. The mother is Joy. And so what happened was that they were putting a lot of pressure on her. And apparently she did not accept the strong push from the doctor or the nurse practitioner to get this brand new drug for cystic fibrosis. They made the public remarks in their statement that the Kinley, the little girl, was emaciated, sick, dying, might need a lung transplant. You judge for yourself. She was not emaciated. She looked healthy as my girls did at age 7. And she was not requiring any oxygen. She didn't have, any difficulty breathing. Listen, I've taken care of a lot of pregnant women that have cystic fibrosis, right? So, apparently this, and I'm saying apparently because I don't know for sure, but it seems that they tried to push a drug, and the name of the drug is Trikefta, Trikeftra. This drug is new on the market. It's been around for, I think, 2 or 3 years. As I review, to the best of my knowledge, they've made $8 billion already on income on this drug. It has a black box warning, Brandon. That is the harshest, most dangerous warning that the CDC, FDA can put on a medicine. So the mother questioned, I don't know if I want to take this. I don't know that I'm going to let you give this to my daughter. A nurse practitioner had the audacity to really permanently hurt this lady, and apparently put in the medical records that she was suffering from von Munchausen's proxy. She was a von Munchausen's proxy. And for those who don't know that of your audience, this is, Munchausen syndrome is where you purposefully do stuff to yourself so you can seek medical attention and surgeries. Von Munchausen's by proxy is when you do that to a family member. So there's absolutely no evidence, to my knowledge. This blew up. It's alleged that the 3 caseworkers involved, social workers, have been fired. But just keep in mind, I think, and I may be wrong, I'm not an attorney, Branna, but I think that it's been illegal in the state of Florida, ordained by DeSantis and Ladapo, that it's illegal to force any drug on any citizen, let alone this drug that is new. Apparently on the black box warnings, you may die from terminal liver toxicity. I don't think you'd give that to your child.
No.
It's very, very disturbing. And remember, this could have been you during the pandemic when you didn't take the vaccine.
Or give it to your child.
Yeah. What if that was your child? And now this is a permanent record, the diagnosis of von Munchausen's by proxy. And this is utterly absurd. The 4 pillars of medical ethics, Brandon. The first one is patient autonomy, right? The second one is patient beneficence. The third one is non-malfeasance, do not do harm. And the fourth one is justice. They just violated all 4 of the pillars of medical ethics. It's awful. And why are they choosing this case? A mother should have, the parents should have the final decision about what medications this at the time 5-year-old child would get. So it's just, it's satanic. As you well know, this is a spiritual battle, as in Ephesians 6, Paul says, you don't fight against blood and flesh, right? You are fighting against satanic principalities in geographic locations. And this is just awful.
I mean, give me a break. And you know what? Where is the governor of this state? Where's your attorney general?
No, it's absolutely horrifying. It's terrifying to me. It's almost a type of what's to come in the Daniel's 70th week, right?
Yeah, the tribulation. I think I have a video here of a doctor. Yeah, I do. This is a doctor speaking to this issue, interviewed by Mary Talley Bowden. Listen to this little interview, just a little bit. Here we go.
So I was able to get a hold of that body cam footage. One of the DCF workers was laughing and smiling as she's at the door and going to take this child away, screaming. Child is crying, mother is crying, breaking down in tears. This 7-year-old girl laughing and saying, I don't need a warrant. I don't need anything. I can take your child away before we file anything in court. Goes in and takes the child away. Wow. This child was thriving. She was on a treatment that's been used for cystic fibrosis since the 1950s. I can't pronounce drug names like you can because I'm not a doctor, but I forget the name of it. But I have it all in my records. It's in the court filings. She was giving this child a drug that's been used since the 1950s. The child was without oxygen. You know, often these children on cystic fibrosis, they need oxygen. She didn't have any oxygen, running around, playing, laughing, perfectly fine. The state, after they took the child away, and the reason they ostensibly took the child away is because she wasn't using this newer drug. I shouldn't say it's not brand new, but it's a newer drug with a black box warning, shown to cause death, liver failure, all kinds of adverse reactions reported. They didn't even put the child on the drug for 3 months, almost 3 months after they took the child away. They still didn't, they didn't even put the child. They put her in a foster home, wouldn't put her with her parents or family members. She wanted the child to be placed with family members. Nope, we're going to place her with strangers in foster care.
Wow.
I mean, this is evil. This is pure evil. So we made a commitment here at We the Patriots USA about a year ago that we were going to be on a mission to end medical kidnapping in America. That's medical kidnapping. There is no good reason that child should have been taken away from her mother. And we're going to do everything in our power to bring that child home. We've retained an attorney for the plaintiff here. We paid already the initial retainer, even though we haven't raised it. We've paid thousands of dollars for this case. All
right. And of course, is anyone going to be prosecuted for this? No, probably not, because we live in a system, local, state, and federal, where criminals can get away with pretty much anything because, in my opinion, the laws are written by criminals, okay? The laws are written by the criminals, and therefore they let the criminals at the street. See, the criminals up above write the laws, which allow the criminals down below to do what they do. Because the criminals up above know what they need to be able to do and get away with in the white collar area and, quote, insider trading and all this other garbage that goes on. This is my opinion from years of 36 years of doing this. The criminals up above write the legislation, and then the criminals from down below also benefit. And by the way, some of these, quote, criminals I'm referring to are also in the Republican Party. And so the question is, will any of these people face charges for medical kidnapping? Probably not. Probably not, because the system is rigged. It's rigged against the average American. If they can indict you, you have over a 90% chance you are going to be found guilty and go to a concentration camp. In America, we call them prisons, but their names should really be changed to concentration camps because there is a big percentage now growing of people that should not be there. Now, this is what the liberals used to tell us. And we used to mock the liberals as law and order Republicans, that was just liberalism and you ACLU lovers that want all the prisons closed down. No, I think we should have restitution or execution, okay? But we should not have over 1 million people warehoused in America, and certainly not white-collar crime, warehoused in America. This has become a business. This is the prison industrial complex, and the CPS and these groups and the prisons, they make money. This is an industry. And it's rigged that way, which is why we have found judges. One a couple years ago was taking children who were minors in juvenile court and funneling them off to a camp for troubled kids. And it turned out he was reportedly getting kickbacks. The system is so rife with fraud, and the American people tolerate it. I don't know where the husband was or the dad is in this picture, but I'm telling you, one of these days, these guys are going to come across the wrong family. And when they respond to a kidnapping of their child, and I'm not condoning any violence, but I'm going to say, watch how the media portrays them as homeschool, religious, David Koresh type weirdo family, right? But at some point, they're going to cross the line with a former military veteran who said, I fought and watched my buddies die on the battlefield. There's no way you're going to, bring this garbage to my front door and kidnap my child. And you know what? Americans, if we have not become so yellow-bellied, this would have already been checked and wouldn't be happening because the government officials would be scared to death of the average American male. But the average American male has been neutered and turned into a feminized faggot.
Absolutely. Amen. And this is what really bothers me, Brannon, about it's this case, of course, but I can rattle off, where is all the outrage with these disclosures, right? Okay, we have now disclosures, and information. Nobody believes the false 9/11 narrative anymore.
No, they don't.
We have disclosures about Obama, proven that he posted a false birth certificate on whitehouse.gov. That's proven by forensic experts all over the world. We have, Benghazi. We've proven the Benghazi. We now know that Jeffrey Epstein and JP Morgan Bank, along with Bill Gates, planned the pandemic for a massive profit margin, according to the emails that were exchanged that were recently released from the Epstein files. Now we know that the vaccine was a hoax. We know there was high treason against the sitting president of the United States. We know that the election was stolen. The election was stolen in 2020. Everybody knows it. All the data is coming out. But Brannon, who cares? Who does anything? Nobody.
And now we're told Epstein wasn't trafficking children by our government. On video, more than one of government officials come out and said there's no proof that he was trafficking minor children or trafficking children, trafficking women. Well, wasn't he in jail for that? Isn't that what he was in jail for? Isn't that what he was charged with the first time when he got some kind of sweetheart deal? Oh, which, by the way, was in Florida.
Yeah. It's awful. Everybody's paid off. The system is rigged.
It is rigged.
Let's hope that let's hope that, Joyce Zoroff, the mother, and Kinley are reunited. Let's hope that this judge isn't Judge Duncan. Let's pray that he's not a paid off pig.
Let's pray for that. We got some video footage from Dr. Thorpe, didn't we, Logan? Let's go to a couple clips. Here's Dr. Thorpe at this prayer rally outside the courthouse today. Here's the first one.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I'm Dr. Jim Thorpe, and I'm here at the Milton County Courthouse. So what's your name?
My name's Nicole Skelly. I'm with the Libertarian Party of Santa Rosa County.
Why are you here?
I am here to protest the case for Joy Zoroff for the court in DCF trying to remove her parental rights for doing what she feels is best for her child.
I want to thank you so much. You're a brilliant lawyer of truth.
Well, I'm glad someone cares. I'm glad you care that you took your time, Doc, to go out there and film this and bring it to us tonight. I mean, he's just hours from being with these dear people that took their time today to speak up. Logan, how many of these we got? All right, let's go to the next one.
Hey, good morning. I'm Dr. Jim Thorpe. And we're here in the courthouse of Milton County. And what's your name?
My name is Lacey Price. And, sorry.
Lacey, you're standing out with an incredible sign here. And I noticed that you're getting a lot of support with horn honks. Why are you here?
I am here because I do not believe the government has the right to force you to take any medication or to force your children to take medication. I believe in medical sovereignty, and I'm here to support Joy and her daughter, Kinley.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. That's excellent. Let's go to the next one. We got two more. Let's go to the next one.
Good morning, and I'm Dr. Jim Thorpe at the county, the county courthouse, actually, of Santa Rosa County. And, ma'am, state your name.
Good morning. My name is Ann Patterson, and I'm here to protest the government overreach, taking our children away for their benefit.
And you're holding two signs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We support parental rights.
This is seems to be a little bit of overreach, do you think?
Absolutely.
From my perspective as a physician, it's a breach of medical ethics, and it goes directly against all 10 items of the Nuremberg Code of Honor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Jim Thorpe, and I'm in front of the courthouse of Santa Rosa County, as you can see, and a large contingent out here next to a very busy road. What's your name?
My name is Carrie McKenzie.
And Carrie, why are you here?
I'm here protesting government overreach, both medically and of our parental rights. I have absolutely no tolerance for government overreach.
And the sign that you're holding, obviously, Save Kenley, End Medical Kidnapping.
Yes.
That's exactly what was done on
exactly right.
March of 2024, right?
And she still hasn't had her daughter back, yes.
Do you think the care providers like me that did this should have their licenses removed?
Yes, they should definitely be held accountable. They had no right to dictate the medication she gives her daughter.
Thank you very much, and God bless you.
God bless.
Yeah. This is a tragic story, heartbreaking story, but it's just one of thousands upon thousands of stories where Americans are losing their children. And I don't know if you ever looked up, Doc, Nancy Schaefer, State Senator Nancy Schaefer out of Georgia. Did you ever look up Nancy Schaefer?
No.
Well,
Tell me about her.
Let me see if I can find her. Senator Nancy Schaefer. She spoke at our...
Is this going to make me more nauseated than I already am?
Uh-huh. She spoke at our Worldview Weekend in Georgia many years ago, but she also was a regular guest. I would have her on my show many times. And she was warning about CPS in Georgia stealing children from particularly low-income families that couldn't fight them off. And this was this was the mid-90s that I was interviewing her, mid-90s. She ended up dying. Her husband and her came to my Worldview Weekend in Georgia. She spoke, and then I went to lunch with her and her husband. And Logan, maybe you can look up what year it happened, Nancy Schaefer. But she was found shot in her bed and her husband shot. And they declared it murder-suicide, even though there was a lot of suspicious things around it. And my friend, 2010, when she was killed? And my friend Garland Favorito knew her really, really well. And no one that knows her believes it was murder-suicide. At least, I shouldn't say nobody, but the majority of people I know don't believe it was murder-suicide. She was trying to warn about the dangers of CPS years ago with my friend Phyllis Slapley. Here's just a minute or two of Nancy.
Well, my name is Nancy Schaefer, and I'm from the state of Georgia in the United States. And thank you for your gracious invitation to join you tonight. And thanks to all of you who have made this incredible World Congress of Families #5 in Amsterdam possible. It's a privilege for me to join you tonight and to be with you in some pro-family policy here. I will share with you on the unlimited power of Child Protective Services. I served in the Georgia State Senate, and after 4 years of viewing the ruthless and unsparing actions of Child Protective Services, also called CPS, which I will use tonight, I wrote a scathing report entitled "The Corrupt Business of Child Protective Services." Thank you. The report cost me my Senate seat. Here's some copies of the report, if you'd like to get one. However, there are causes worth losing over, and this is one. I'm going to talk about some of the problems and then some realistic, maybe, solutions for families and children, and maybe look to some steps that we can take. This is not to say that there are not those children in wretched situations who need to be removed. There are, and we all agree. But tonight, I'm talking about those children removed from their homes intentionally for profit. Children are seized unnecessarily from their families due to the federal aid created in 1974 entitled the Adoption and Safe Families Act. It offers financial incentives to the states that increase adoption numbers. To receive the adoption incentives or bonuses, local CPS must have more children. They must have more merchandise to sell. Funding is available when a child is placed in a foster home with strangers or placed in a mental health facility and medicated, usually against the parents' wishes. Parents are victimized by the system that makes a profit for holding children longer and bonuses for not returning children to their parents. This is abuse of power. It is lack of accountability. And it is a growing criminal political phenomenon spreading around the globe. Oftentimes, but not always, poor parents are targeted to lose their children because they do not have the wherewithal to hire an attorney or fight the system. Being poor and lacking proper housing does not mean your children should be removed. CPS has redefined poor to mean psychologically inferior. Therefore, it is in the best interest of the child to be removed. Best interest, of course, has also been redefined at the child's expense. It has been reported over and over that 6 times as many children die in foster care than in the general public. Once a child is legally kidnapped and placed in official safety, the child is far more likely to suffer abuse, including sexual molestation and or rape. Case workers and social workers are often guilty of fraud. They withhold and destroy evidence, and they seek wrongly to terminate parental rights while being protected by state immunity. There is a huge bureaucracy made up of judges, court-appointed attorneys, guardian ad litems, social workers, state employees, court investigators, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, foster parents, adoptive parents, and on, who are looking to the children in state care for their job security. judges have control over private living arrangements and income of 48.3 million Americans. The United States Census Bureau reported in 2002 that $40 billion in transfer payments were made between households of custody parents and other parents. That money, $40 billion, is under the direction and control of family court judges in environments covered with confidentiality laws that protect the wrong people. Fathers are victims of this unjust system. Child support payments, even without having visits with...
And we'll stop it there. This is a huge, huge, multi-billion-dollar industry for self-preservation, just like our politicians plunder for special interest themselves. The system itself is all based on self-dealing by and large.
It's awful. It's a self-propagating. There's such a severe conflict of interest. And, you know, it reminds me of a different scenario, but how mounting up the more homeless and the more drug addicts they get in Seattle and Portland, and so the more money that unit gets. So it ends up, there's a circle of collusion, even with the policemen and condoning this. Not all the money that's going to the homeless doesn't go to the homeless. It's going to the deep pockets. I see Tom Renz, my friend Tom Renz, attorney Tom Renz.
Yeah, he's coming up next. And before I let you go, Doc, I wrote my book, Reclaiming a Nation at Risk, in '95. And there I talked about what was called Parents as Teachers. Is based out of Missouri when it started, Parents as Teachers. And it would go, and the whole idea, it went national. And the idea was to have home visits and determine whether a child was at risk. And I put in that 1995 book, and you don't need to buy it, folks. It's in the vault. If you're a vault member, the PDF of the book is there at worldviewtube.com/vault. The criteria for whether a child was at risk: too many toys, too few toys, too much stimulation, overstimulation or lack of stimulation, a parent that travels frequently, allergies in the home, death in the family, a parent taking a new job. I could go on and on. They were all inclusive because the goal was what you just said. The more at risk a county had, the more state money they got. The more at risk in a state, the more federal money they got. It was all based on fraud. By and large.
Brenna, could I ask you, and I don't want to ask you a leading question. You're very conversant with this issue. Do you think that there could be a possibility that there's a protective child custody, these organizations in every state, county, could they be actually colluding into a pedophile traffic ring? Is that possible, or is that just...
No. In fact, Nancy Schaefer would just get to that. If we kept playing and her other videos, you should absolutely watch more of her information, because it seems like these children were being traded because they were like cattle, but it also appears that they were also victims of something far, far, far more sinister in relation to what you're saying. Yes. And that may have been what got her killed. I don't know.
Logan and Brandon, please, please, please send me that clip of the senator.
Yep.
Because this family lives right here in my community, and I want to get the word out all over.
Absolutely. What is your website? What is your Twitter? How they can get a hold of you, Doc?
My Twitter is at JATHORPMFM, as in maternal fetal medicine. And my website is DR, as in doctor, DR James Thorpe, no E on the Thorpe.com, drjamesthorpe.com.
Well, you guys should follow him. Doc, thanks for going out there today. Thank you for bringing us these videos tonight and keeping us informed.
Thanks for having me, Brennan. God bless you.
You too. Joining me now is attorney Tom Renz. I want him to respond to my interview with Dr. Thorpe
Glad to be here, House. Boy, I'm wound up about everything you're saying.
Well, yeah, good. So first of all, respond to the last interview with Dr. Thorpe. You were in the wings. You were watching this case out of Florida. Tell me your thoughts as an attorney.
Well, this is appalling, right? So what's happened is we as we always do, we sacrifice our freedoms for a form of security, and we get neither. And that's what's happened with the law related to children, right? So we all agree nobody wants kids to be abused. They want them, don't want to be neglected. And so, coming out of the early 20th century, we had a bunch of laws, a bunch of court cases that essentially kind of moved towards ensuring that parents not only couldn't abuse their children, but also couldn't be negligent with their children. Medical neglect became kind of a thing. And over time, states have codified medical neglect, and it's been upheld in the Supreme Court in many, many ways. Well, medical neglect as a concept, House, it stemmed from kind of this idea that, well, listen, sometimes a kid's getting abused and it's hard to catch them. So, if you're not taking your kid to a doctor, which of course, if you're hitting your kid, beating your kid up, and you got a broken bone, got this, got that, well, you're not going to take them to the doctor because you don't want the doctor to know, right? So the idea is that if you're not taking your kid to the doctor, well, we can pull you in on medical neglect and potentially take your kid away from you. Good idea, right? Because sometimes that's the only way to determine that a child's a victim of real abuse. The problem is that anytime we give the government an inch, they take a mile. So what's happened is the crooks at Big Pharma have colluded with the government, and they're pushing this kind of thing where they say, well, listen, if you don't get, this medical treatment, it's medical neglect, which has nothing to do with abuse, right? This has everything to do with parental choice. But because the court rulings and the interpretation of the law say, well, if you're medically negligent to your kid, we can take your kid. They've twisted that and said, well, but if you don't get your vaccine, you're medically negligent. If you don't let your trans child be trans, you're medically negligent, right? And so I'm overstating it a little bit, but that's kind of how it goes. And what happens is, it's usually the parents that can't afford good attorneys, can't afford to fight back. They're targeted. Some kid, gets cancer. We've got examples of kids who've gotten cancer. The treatment wasn't working. They were dying. There's a great example out of Oklahoma I was doing some work with. Kid had cancer. Traditional treatment wasn't working. Mom took him to naturopath. The treatment is working great. The kid's doing great. In fact, when Child Protective Services came, the kid was push mowing the lawn. He was healthy as could be. But Child Protective Services goes and they hear from a doctor, hey, we're not getting our millions of dollars for chemo or whatever. So they go to the judge. You don't even know this is happening, House. They go to a judge. They say to the judge, hey, this family's not treating their kid's going to die. The doctor colludes with Child Services. Doctor gets more money because they want to sell their chemo. Child Services gets more money because they get more money with every kid they've got in custody. And so they collude. They go in there, hey, this kid's going to die without chemo. Judge says, oh, no, can't have the kid die without chemo. You get to take the kid. So then Child Services shows up with guns and says, we're taking your kid. And you don't even know there was a court hearing. You don't know anything about it. You had no chance to do anything. They take your kid, and then you've got 24 to 72 hours, depending on the state and the circumstances, to find a lawyer who can argue against these doctors about the medical necessity of the treatment. Well, there's like 5 lawyers on the planet capable of doing that well. I know because I'm one of them, right? So it's a very, very, very hard thing to do, even if you know how to do it. And so then you go back to the judge. The judge says, well, sorry, you didn't prove that it wasn't medically necessary, so we're going to keep this kid with Child Services while we figure out what's going on. And you're screwed. The family's broke. They can't afford the lawyers. They can't afford treatment. So it's literally medical kidnapping. It's done in numerous.
But as we heard from Nancy Schaefer, and that was an old speech, this is highly, highly profitable, like the Somali daycare scam or any of these other scams. The hospice scam in California, where there's no apparent hospice patients for the most part. A lot of it was empty places. This is very, very lucrative, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, remember, CPS gets more funding for every child that's in custody than they do for a child that they keep with the family. So CPS makes more money doing this.
And did you heard Nancy Schaefer in that speech say a child is 6 times more likely to die in CPS care than they are in the average family in America? home.
The law and regulations say they're supposed to try and keep families together, but the money says get them apart because they get more money when they're apart. And then, meanwhile, the doctors, listen, how much money does a doctor get for chemo? It's millions of dollars, right? So anything that pharma is pushing, the doctors, the hospital systems are making money off of. So yeah, they're colluding. And we have numerous instances, House, where we found these people perjuring themselves, literally perjuring themselves outright. But there's no publicity because the states also have laws that put gag orders on the parents so that while these kids are essentially being kidnapped and trafficked, the parents can't even go to the press about it. It's unbelievable.
So let me ask you before we move to the next topic, what do you think this is laying the foundation for? And if this is happening in Florida, can you imagine what's going on in the other states? Because Florida is one of the most conservative states around with a very conservative Surgeon General and a very conservative governor for the most part. Can you imagine what it's like in the other states? But what is this laying the foundation for in America, do you think?
So I'm going to tell you, House, I can't prove this, but I'm going to tell you, I firmly believe, because I read the tea leaves and I see how this is picking up around the country, and places like California are going nuts over it. They're pushing the trans issue in California. If your kid claims to be a tranny and you don't want to go get an addictomy surgery, they're going to try and take your kid. They call it medical negligence. So this is gaining steam. I think this is an emerging issue. I think this is probably happening on epic proportions, but because all the states have laws that prevent the parents from talking about it, you can't do this. So I think what's happening, House, is they're laying the groundwork more and more for states to be able to just take your children, to be able to use it as a mechanism of control. And there's no way, we can't even track it because you're not, they said the parents are under gag orders. CPS will threaten the parents. We've had this. Hey, if you speak out, we're going to take your other kids. It's horrific. And the abuse of power is egregious. It's something that is a crisis situation. We've got to get on this.
How much of it do you think is for the purpose of sex trafficking children?
Well, that's one of the things that I'm very curious about, right? Because we know there's numerous stories, and, where there's smoke, there's fire. And, 6 years ago, I might have said, it's just a conspiracy theory. But at this point, the conspiracy theories have all proven to be fact, right? So I'm certain there's an element of that. What I'm not certain of is how big it is. I personally think, but cannot prove, that it's very likely that there's organized sex trafficking running through Child Protective Services. It doesn't mean that it's everyone. There's some great, wonderful people who work at CPS who deserve respect. And just because you work at CPS doesn't mean you're evil. But that's like the federal government. There are 2 or 3 people in the federal government that aren't evil. The rest of them may suck, but, it doesn't necessarily. So there are good people there. But the problem is do I think that it's possible, feasible, and even likely that there's an organized sex trafficking component to CPS that's probably very under the radar, and even coworkers that probably don't know about it? Yeah, I absolutely think that's a thing.